Hello and welcome to whatever this is, and whatever it will be. And because I don't know the nature of what it is yet, I will do something completely random as I tend to do. And I have in front of me here a diary in which I've been writing for the past year. I have more of this sort of stuff. I'm actually grabbing the other one. Which I've written over the past 8 years of my life. So back when I was just an 18-year-old kid, 18, 19. It's actually been more than 8 years. It's been nine, almost 10 years of life spent writing in a journal which I myself crafted. Not obviously, but I used these little books that my dad used to bring from work every once in a while. This one is from 2010. It's like legacy right here. We're in 2021. And I started writing somewhere in 2013. Yes. That's when I first started writing in this journal. And it just happened to be a unique thing for me to stick to it for the amount of time that I did, because I've been writing ever since I learned how to write. And I've been writing just about anything, from love letters to poems to crushes that didn't pan out well. I was a hopeless romantic. Writing to my family to express my feelings and thoughts, like I was that weird kid that would write the same letter and then print it 6 times at an internet cafe at the end of our neighborhood. The only place you could really get internet, really, or where you could actually print things. And they costed like 10 cents a page, and I don't even know where I got the money, but I would go and print it 6 times and then give it to all of my family members and keep a copy to myself and tell them, okay, here, read it, because I think you need to know, you need to understand, so let me help you understand this little kid right here. This part of the story, this podcast, it was inspired by a dear friend of mine who's been telling me to do something of this nature for a while, and the best way for me recently to express myself has kind of just been by just rambling on about a particular topic that me and my friend are talking about. I need a little bit of a prompt, and then my thoughts, which I gather mostly by observation, or more actually it's truer to say that I just gather intuitively, like through osmosis, and just being in an environment. I just sit there and watch and feel and experience, and all of that energy and all of that curiosity about the world around me. Recently, I'm in this mood to just talk a lot, and I've been complaining about it myself. And my therapist says that it's actually a good thing that I'm expressing my thoughts and kind of building, or maybe spending the energy that I have accumulated over the years, where I've been silent and withdrawn and felt like, there was no power in me to really say what I wanted to say, or, I didn't have enough confidence to say what I wanted to say, and I didn't feel like anybody really wanted to hear what I wanted to say. And the thing is that, what's changed is not that now I have something smart to say, or that I somehow believe that I have something to say that you would want to hear. It's that I have a lot to say, and I've just chosen to say it, I guess. But given that I don't know the nature of these, let's say, monologues, I need to imagine that there is somebody on the other side of this listening and building some kind of process of thought that I am maybe, inspiring in some sort of a weird, timeless brainstorm session. I'm inspiring a train of thought that is going to somewhere and might unlock parts of your brain that, you might not have seen or explored before, or maybe you just didn't think about. I like to see people I like to think of as people as galleries. I see the world in metaphors. It's just sort of how it reveals itself to me. It's like fractals, a pattern within a pattern, a metaphor within a metaphor. The world is a metaphor of itself, and every entity inside of it sees itself mirrored in other pieces. So it's this sort of beautiful infinity mirror that I cannot stop being curious about. So I'm gonna do that a lot. I'm gonna probably talk in metaphors a lot, which to a lot of people sounds abstract, and a lot of people don't dig it. So if you're not one of those people, then, cool. If I have certain train of thought in mind, try to follow it to the end, or at least the end doesn't have to be an answer, not at all, but it could at the end of the day just be a question. I do read a lot, and I do see a lot of things, and I talk to a lot of different people from different wakes of life, and I learn a lot of things, and I'm curious about sciences. I'm absolutely passionate about the human psyche, so I read a lot about psychology. I am recently enamored, I would say, with neuroscience, so I am exploring this area of life. Until I find a format for this, it's going to be a lot of rambling, just a lot of talking into the mic and figuring out where I go to next. And even if perhaps I have a train of thought, I'm just going to take a lot of stops and, walk around, enjoy the view, and then get on the next train, and then we're going in the same direction. So you'll have to bear with me for the first couple of minutes. Maybe I can just keep you company when you're doing something, I don't know, insignificant. Okay, so to begin with, let me do something. This journal that I was writing, as I started talking about this, like this journal that I was writing for the past 8 years, I recently finished right around the time when I moved back to Poland, which is where I currently live. And I decided to digitalize it. First 3 journals that I wrote when I was a kid, I burned to crisp. And I regret it ever since. And I just keep saying this, and I keep talking about this. I know why I did it, and I understand why I did it. I just still have a deep, deep, deep regret for that turn of events. I love kind of going back into what I wrote when I was 18 and being able to dissect with a different perspective now, and with a completely different level of knowledge pool, either of myself or of just how the human brain works, and just how we do things, and just generally through psychotherapy I've been able to really deeply explore my processes and my narratives, and why I am the way that I am, why I think the way that I think, and why I do the things that I do, right? That's like the main goal of psychotherapy, is to reveal our narratives to us. And then if any of those narratives just happen to be some sort of delusion that we've convinced ourselves are real, then the idea is to burst those bubbles and to truly understand why, or truly understand the narrative in its true context, I would say. And that's what I've been doing for the past 1.5 years in psychotherapy. I've been exploring a lot of my narratives, and as you would imagine, a lot of that has its root in my childhood, and I've had a very complicated childhood. Let's say I come from a country that's been in war when I was 5, so if you've heard about the Kosovo War, I basically, when it was done, I graduated from war and walked straight into school with just a bunch of other traumatized kids with all kinds of horror stories to tell. So I grew up in a country where the history was hidden in plain sight, where people, because you were a child, a lot of the adults, like most of the times, the adults would just kind of close your eyes and say, nope, that didn't happen, nope, it's not true, nope, don't think about that, don't talk about that, just live life, be a kid, whatever. They were avoiding the topic of conversation, and then that led to a lot of disillusionment. And I was the kind of kid that was super curious about everything. I was so curious about everything, in fact, that just had all of this fascination with the people and the things that were around me, that I was a lot of the times just isolated in my own brain. And that meant that I turned to writing a lot. Like I said, I wrote to my family, I wrote to my friends, I just wrote. And aside from just mini poems and writing proses or whatever, I just started creating. And in this process of creation, I just explored different tools that I could do that through. Maybe that's why I even became a game designer at the end of the day, because games were that sort of door to the other side and to the rest of it all, to the rest of the world for me. And ever since then, even now, I see them as tools to unlock our capacity as human beings to just connect and interact with the world, and maybe expand our sense of self, and through that expand our sense of understanding of the other, and of the world that we inhabit, and basically a way for us to explore the patterns within it, be its mirror as it is our own to some extent. So in any case, a lot has happened. Complicated childhood, complicated upbringing, and today I decided I want to start this podcast by reading a random page out of this book. So I will flip the pages and I will stop somewhere and I will read it for you guys. I did not expect this particular entry to be the first thing that I would have to read, and I'm not going to back down from my word, so I'll stay true to it. I wrote this in the beginning of my process in therapy, and the first thing that I realized is that this self-hatred that I had within me has been festering and festering for my entire life, and I never realized what it was doing to me. And the funny thing is that the easiest thing we reveal is how much we hate ourselves. I have seen far too many people, to the point that it just hurts to think about, people in my life who just jokingly stated that they hate themselves, and I was one of them, and to some extent maybe I still can be that. I don't know if I've completely lost that instinct to say, oh yeah, like, I hate myself, why would I love myself? Like, that's ridiculous. There's so many people around me that I love and that deserve my love, and because they're beautiful in every which way, and I could countlessly state the facts of why they deserve that love. It is so easy for us to do this for other people, and then when it comes to ourselves, it's like, then I know myself too well to love myself. Like, you don't know me like I do. You don't know if I deserve that kind of care and attention. I might crave it, but I'm never gonna admit that. And truly, maybe I even am gonna admit that, but truly it's easier for me to say that I hate myself. Thus we become the bully, or rather we become our own bully, and to fulfill the absolute cycle, the bully is hurt, so it hurts. We end up hurting ourselves, so you just fulfill the cycle, and it continues forever. Breaking that cycle for me was very painful, because I had always kind of seen myself as this evil entity, or rather part of myself, like somebody that just didn't know how to love and just was there to do harm for some reason, because I just kept hurting people around me, and I felt like I was the common denominator of all the people that I hurt. I needed to remove myself from their lives, and I needed to somehow shut down whatever part of me was causing people pain, and lock it in a box and throw away the key in the ocean, and then never talk about it again. And this was the plan, and it was all going fine, and to some extent it almost worked, but I never actually tackled the one and only problem. Is you want to defeat the bully, you don't slap them right back. You don't take away the tools with which they inflict pain, thinking that somehow is going to stop them from inflicting that pain. You don't look at a bully and say stop, or then maybe speak reason to them. Sure, you don't even send a bully to boarding school and pretend like that is somehow going to redesign their narratives in their brain in such a way that they will stop causing pain from then on out. Honestly, the only thing you can do is to see that broken narrative, which the bully uses to inflict pain, and usually it is pain within, and it is your own pain which causes you to hurt yourself even more, and then complete this self-fulfilling cycle of pain and misery, which feels comfortable, because I guess it's all we learn and all we know at that point. So this entry is like my own self-exploration of this process of seeing the hatred that I have inside of me and hating it right back. So, I mean, in any case, I'm just gonna read it and then maybe I can comment it in the end. You have never loved me. In my darkest paths, you observed, you scrutinized, you stayed silent, you sought revenge, you sought to prove your own truths. Your powerful analytical mind has manically attempted to provoke me, tearing at my beliefs. My thoughts and feelings were irrelevant to you. My being was irrelevant to you. My being still is. I am just useless to you. It is somehow most gratifying to you, the most fulfilling moment when my loved ones deem me selfish, when they realize how starved of care and attention I am. You jump to the occasion and convince me their jokes are absolute truth. Truth I do not wish to believe because I am not strong enough to admit it. I don't crave theirs, I crave yours. You have never loved me. You have reveled in the moments my soul suffocated in disappointment. You celebrated my pain in manic smiles and laughter. You never allowed me to mourn in peace, twiddling around with my broken pieces, obsessively repeating the fact that you told me so. You have never loved me. In moments of pure love, you were the voice in the back of my consciousness, reminding me that I don't deserve it. I don't deserve love, neither can I keep it, neither can I nourish it and enable its growth. I am too small for love. I am too small for your love, it seems. You have never loved me. My most intimate moments to you have been overcompensation, my desperate attempt to project the love I so crave to be reflected right back to me somehow. I have always tried too hard and pushed too hard and loved too much and cared too much, caressed too much and hugged too much and kissed too much. You have never loved me. I have always been too sick for your love. You have been the first to remind me how dysfunctional I am, how disorganized, how clumsy, how selfish, how idiotic, how pathetic, how utterly pathologically pathetic I am. Nothing I ever do has sufficed. No amount of success or achievement, no amount of anything would change your mind or soul. I have no worth to you. I am useless. I am a parasite. You have never loved me. In moments I saw weakness in your eyes, I almost sensed your care for me. I have reached out in desperation, like a freezing moth seeking the warmth of light, only to be met with a cold surface of pity. You have never believed I deserved anything more than pity. And that's why you supported me fully in my most pitiful, selfish implosions of my soul. In my most pitiful moments of this life, you have earnestly and warmly smiled. You have never loved me. You scoffed at my need to feel the warm, truthful, joyful, soulful love you provide others with. You find it offensive and selfish that I would even allow myself to dwell in those feelings, even if for a second. In losing my senses to my deepest pains, you have made sure you struck twice for good measure, just in case I would think to get up again. You have never loved me. In my most self-destructive moments, you remained silent. You almost felt sorry for me. You almost gave me your most sincere look and then didn't, in fear of giving me exactly what I needed. You watched as I unraveled in disaster, and you watched as I poisoned my being. You watched as I almost destroyed everything that I hold dear. You have never loved me. You have never believed anyone could or does. And you patiently waited until I sabotaged my life and proved you right. You have never loved me, and you laughed at the thought I could be sick with a deadly disease. You sat there and held back laughter as the doctor said not to worry or dwell on the thought that it could be cancer. But you wished. You have never loved me. In moments I decided to end it all, you assumed your most reassuring voice and supported my thoughts. You have pushed me to believe it is for the best. I was always to blame for everything, faulty to the point of no redemption. You have never loved me. In my most stressful moments, you have unleashed my darkest, most terrifying demons. You have cheered forward my broken mind, screaming my worthlessness to my face in a crowd of cursed voices. You have never loved me, nor have you ever let me feel worthy of love. You have planted a cursed seed in my soul. You are poison to me. You are poison. You seek to diminish me, to shame me. You want me to fear you. You want me to give up the fight and die. You have never loved me. And for once, just once, I wish I could somehow convince you that I deserve nothing more than my peace of mind. But you have never loved me. You have never loved. You have created this duality within you that makes you feel comfortable in believing that I am a different person. And I'm too imperfect to be a part of you. I even wrote imperfect perfectly twice as if to prove a point, and you shook your head at the thought. You have built a garden for yourself and the ones you hold dear, but keep me out of it. I am your prisoner. I am your punishment. I am your disease. I am anything but you, and in all worldly definitions, you seek to confirm you own me. You have never loved me. A slave to your greatest fear, I am nothing more than your excuse. You wish to use anything and everything to push forward your worth into the world. No, you wish to prove you can bring the worth out of the entire world. Yet you cannot even for a second reach within and find. You cannot find mine. What of others? And I truly cannot find it either, and I am truly at a loss, truly lost and powerless. I am truly powerless and lonely. You can't pretend you can drown me in your emptiness. I am your emptiness. I am your lack of love for all that is you. I am a child, and I'm just a child. I am broken and unholy, but I am you, and this too shall pass. Just please, for our sake, for the sake of all that is holy and all that is love, for the sake of the one you love, your family and friends, do not destroy us. Do not kill us. Learn to love and allow yourself to love in perfection. Allow yourself to love yourself. Interestingly enough, reading this now, almost a year into the future, honestly, I see it. I see the change. I see the point, and this was sort of a tipping point for me. Like, I see the moment when something happened, when I could finally face my demon as a part of me, rather than as something that I needed to get rid of, and something that I needed to lock and destroy and burn. I started seeing it as a part of me, just as I see all parts and all pieces of others around me, and I love them all the same for it, the good and the bad, and especially the bad. We find ways to justify it and to say, it's okay, you're only human, yet I couldn't do that for me. And I think this was the tipping point when the page truly turned and I decided to speak. And something happened, and I did truly listen. It was hard, and I didn't really... in Albanian, we have this expression, we say metražitone. Metražitone is this, when you go to an arcade machine and you have the little coin, the arcade machine coin, that's a žitan. And it's not even Albanian, probably, like it's in Serbian or in some other language. And that it takes a while from the moment you put the coin in until it falls and the game begins. So for that coin to really hit, it took years. I'm not sure exactly how many sessions of therapy it's taken and how many broken hearts in the meantime, and how much of a traumatic of an experience it was, but it eventually got there. But this was truly the tipping point of me telling myself, hello, I am you, this too shall pass. But I just need to let you know that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And actually, get it? You've never loved me. I'm not saying that you're a piece of shit, but you've done all these horrible things to me, and I just need to say it and admit it. And the pain was exactly this, realizing that I was an absolute asshole to myself. And it all started to change there. It all started to change, and then kind of a nature, this sort of tone of self-acceptance started to take place. Although, until I got there was quite a few mental breakdowns in between, I'll say. I can maybe read another piece and call it a day for today because it is almost 1 a.m. Maybe I can choose to read something from the new journal now, just sort of as I don't know, I'm curious myself. I hope that you are too. If you're still listening, I guess you might be. So I will just flip the pages and pick something and get back to reading again. Interesting. This was a very recent one. Apathy. Strange times. Words aren't easy to put together into one coherent sentence. Every breath I draw feels heavy and painful. I am not sick. I just feel so terribly, overwhelmingly sad. Empty. In the last entries of the previous journal, I wrote about protecting myself from this deep emptiness I feel. I feel I have lost connections to people I hold dearest, pivots of my existence, family. Not because I moved, not even because they are no longer in my life, but because I realized those do not represent happiness to me. They drained me and made me feel small and continuously challenged me to the point it turned to abuse. In fear of causing pain, I turned all of that internally to myself. This is very interesting, and honestly, I'm not reading now. I'm just like commenting in the middle because I can't believe from that we jumped to this, and now I'm just curious where it's gonna go. So let me read that again, just to reiterate, because I don't want to lose train of thought anywhere. I don't want to break the flow, but I'm a bit blown away by this now. I'm invested. They drained me, made me feel small, continuously challenged me to the point it turned to abuse. In fear of causing pain, I turned all of that internally to myself. I'm just so very sad. And I don't believe I knew how deep this sadness could go. I barely even have the strength to hold myself tall for other people. I just wish to drop myself into someone's arms and cry. It doesn't matter who they are, or maybe it does. Maybe it does matter who they are, and hugely so. My ex, I considered her family. Mine was disappointing to the extent they don't even realize or wish to understand my pain. For a group of highly intelligent individuals, I would expect more from them. More humanity. I suppose when I chose my next family, it was just more of the same. I chose pain. Love, to me, seems to be its synonym. A gradient in its bubble within the spectrum. Red in all its shades. My thoughts are scattered and my mind is torn. I honestly am terrified. I am never going to be able to pull it back together. Before, when I had these painful realizations, I would isolate or write more about it, process it by squeezing it out of me. But right now, it feels like I am horribly stuck. I just have to let the river take me. I don't wish to talk about it. I just wish to flow through it. That was interesting. And see, this happens a lot. I write a lot in a lot of different forms. Sometimes I write emails, I write to my people, my close friends. I talk to them a lot. Like, I have some really good, that's like an understatement to say. I'm surrounded by some of the most beautiful creatures that I think you can meet in this world. They're caring, they're empathetic, they're incredibly smart and intelligent people. They care, and they are what I consider to be people in motion. And I don't just mean in motion as in people who are constantly going from place to place. It's not like a chaotic energy of people in motion, but just people who every waking day they choose to not remain static. They choose to become more than they are, and on such a deep unconscious level that they themselves don't even realize that every day they're growing because they keep an open mind, and that takes so much energy and resolve, and because of the fact that they do it intuitively, so lucky to be surrounded by them and have them in my life. to look up to, and whenever I feel stuck, like in this particular entry, I can look to them and say, hey, I'll catch up in a minute. I'll be right there. And it's not so much a location or a place, it's just more about momentum. You know, time is a timeless place. I don't see things as forward or backwards. I think we are just all parallels to each other, like mirrors, infinity mirrors, and we spot each other somewhere along the way. We look into ourselves and we see the other, and we look into the other and we see ourselves. So I am truly very lucky today to have these people in my life, and in many ways they've helped me get unstuck just by being, just by existing. Most importantly, I'm very happy about the fact that I do write, and I would recommend this to just about anyone. Writing is I think it's, evolutionarily speaking even, it is just a very important tool of self-expression. It's something that, for me, I experience it as kind of a trance. When I start writing, I forget that I write, and when I'm going back to my journals, or I'm going back to these entries after months, weeks, years, whatever, it's as if somebody else wrote them, and truly somebody else did write them. It was, sure, we share the same name and background, but for sure we don't share the same present. And, you know, that person had her own thoughts and her own perspectives, and I have my own thoughts and my own perspectives. And I don't look back and compare. I rather, you know, go back and I experience it as a conversation. You know, I think, okay, like, this is what you revealed, and this is where that got me, because you revealed this to me. You know, I've been thinking about what you said for the next year, weeks, months, maybe not consciously, but somewhere inside you said a piece of like a gear in motion, and the rest of it begins. We are a series of narratives that we download from our environment as we are growing up, especially when we're kids. And no wonder that they say that children are sponges. Really, really, truly, they are. We are sponges when we're kids. And we are sucking up narratives from our environment left and right, like without filter, because we just don't know yet what to take and what not to take. And sometimes it takes the simplest of narratives to just stick to your brain, and it spreads like a virus, and it just sits there and waits like a parasite. It waits for the right victim to come along, and then it attaches to another narrative, and it stays there. And it's just, over the course of the years, we don't understand why we do the things that we do, or we believe the things that we believe, and it dictates the rest of our lives. Keeping track of these narratives, or just giving yourself a medium, whatever it is, to spit it out and to break it down into something that is just digestible, or something that you can revisit in the future, that I think is just about the healthiest thing that we can do as human beings. When we stop, when we isolate, when we stop listening, when we don't listen to our own narratives, when we don't listen to other people, we become close-minded. And in our close-mindedness, we feed our ego to the extent that we see nothing beyond it. And the world doesn't revolve around us, as we very well know. So it would behoove us to start understanding our narratives and why we operate in the way that we do, why our code is set up in the way that it is, and how our software operates, our hardware, which is our dear loving bodies. Anyway, I do believe it is time for me to bid you good night, and bid myself to that bed and get some sleep. I thank thee for joining me in this blessed night of the 20th of November in the year 2021, as if that is somehow relevant. Probably it's not the same date for you, so that's probably completely irrelevant. But yes, thank you for joining me in this experience into somewhere. I don't know where yet, but if you joined and you listened and you stayed here, just yes, I do really appreciate you still being here. I hope that you gained something, at least some speckle of different thought and perspective. Just a spark of inspiration, perhaps, to think about something different, maybe something better, something more. And what I mean to say by that is I just hope that this isn't too depressing. And if it is, just keep reading and keep listening and expose that narrative, expose that narrative to yourself and see where it leads you. Okay. Good night and sleep tight. And I don't have an ending bit yet. So, in fear of this lasting for another 5 minutes or 10 minutes and we're starting a new episode all over again, goodbye.